Starting Smart, your ultimate guide to all things entrepreneurship with yours truly, Dr. Renarda Jones. Welcome to my new YouTube channel. It will serve as a comprehensive resource guide for all of you who are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs on how do you actually start, run, and scale your business. I am a pharmacist of 20 plus years. I currently own 4 businesses, one of which is an independent pharmacy. I own a managed care consulting organization. I am a Medicare insurance agent, and I am a certified business coach. Prior to this, I've owned 6 other businesses that you'll be able to learn more about as I discuss my journey. I am coupling my actual experiences with proven strategies from Grant Cardone, the 10X program. I have started multiple businesses, ran them, but I never had a true framework. So I took the time and invested the money to become a certified business coach so I can couple my experiences with an actual proven sales and marketing strategy to help other entrepreneurs start and grow their businesses. First thing, if you are actually thinking about starting a business, my advice to you is going to be just to go ahead and do it. I often run into people who are overanalyzing. They're in analysis paralysis. They bought courses. They have hired business coaches before. They know all the things that they should do, but something is keeping them from actually pulling the trigger and starting their business. If that is you, please let this be confirmation that you need to just go out and do the thing, okay? Here's an example. I started RMJ Nursing Solutions, and it was a staffing agency for nurses. Well, I'm not a nurse. I am a pharmacist. And just because I had successfully started and ran a pharmacist staffing business, I thought I could replicate it into nursing. Here's the problem. I'm not a nurse. So therefore, I was never sold on the solution, the staffing agency. So therefore, I was not successful at selling it. I started the business. I sent out 1 round of advertising and then I shut it down. I quickly realized that was not the business for me. So here's a piece of advice for you. Fail and fail fast. If you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. If it doesn't work, fail and fail fast. Now, I told you part of the reason why it wasn't working for me is because I didn't feel comfortable with the service that I was offering because I wasn't a nurse. Here's a 10X principle for you. You can only sell to the degree for which you are sold yourself on your product or service. So therefore, if I'm not sold on what I was actually bringing to the table and trying to market and advertise to others, then guess what? It's going to be very little chance that I was going to successfully find someone who brought into the solution because I myself was not sold on what I was actually offering in the market. I often get asked how I became an entrepreneur, how do I do what I do, and how do I do it on a daily basis? Well, I'm a pharmacist and I graduated from the University of South Carolina in 2003. When I graduated, I became a pharmacist at CVS. I was already working there as an intern. And so pharmacy has always been the foundation platform. I got introduced to pharmacy by my high school algebra teacher, Miss Vicki Taylor, whose husband was a pharmacist, and she got me involved with him. I started working with him at the hospital, and then we left from there, and he owned an independent pharmacy as well as a long-term care pharmacy, and that's how I got my foot in pharmacy and have been there ever since. Now, when I was at CVS, I was a floater, okay? So what that means that I just worked at different stores whenever the pharmacist there could not work, all right? So I would go in and I would fill in. I did have a short stint where I was a manager of a store. RMJ Pharmacy Solutions was actually my very first business. I was working for a staffing agency, and I was working at the new Costco in Greenville, South Carolina. And when I was there one night, it was very slow because it had just opened up. The technician was actually doing the invoices and she was paying them. And she's like, we had a guy here last night. She said, he's not as great as you. She said, I wish all the floaters that came in were like you and actually wanted to help and do the work and, just so personable and things of that nature. Well, I asked her, I said, well, how much are you paying this company? And she told me the rate. And then my mind started to click. I'm like, okay, I know how much they're paying me. She just told me how much they're paying them. That's a huge delta in the middle. So here's a Nectar Nugget for you. And we'll talk about where Nectar came from in my Honey Bee series in another video. But here's a Nectar Nugget for you. You should always be looking for middlemen or looking for problems in the industry that you can actually solve. And that's what I did that night at Costco. I already knew the middleman because I was working for them. What I just gained was knowledge of how much they were making, how much they were paying paying me, and therefore I knew in the middle what was the delta, what was the spread, or what was the amount that they were actually making. Now, that's gross profit. I'm not saying they didn't have bills. As an entrepreneur, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I now know what the wiggle room looks like. What I also realized was that there was a gap in the quality of people or human capital that they were actually sending in for these roles. So that night, I literally went home and I started RMJ Pharmacy Solutions. I got a list of all the independent pharmacies in the state of South Carolina, and I went door to door. And I was marketing and pitching on, we bring extraordinary customer service. So I'm going to bring that flair that this store belongs to me or whoever I'm sending in. So therefore, when the owner has to leave and not work, I don't want them to worry about who they left their store with. We take ownership and provide great customer service as if the owner themselves was there. That's what I was pitching, because that is what differentiated me from the guy who worked the night before that the technician identified. The second piece that I marketed on was my rate was going to be lower than what that big box company was charging, but just enough over what I needed to pay the actual people so that I too could make a profit. All right. And then I was also working it myself full time. So therefore I didn't have to charge so much more than what it would cost to actually provide the actual service. So that is how RMJ Pharmacy Solutions got started. I identified the middleman, I identified the gaps, and I went out and marketed on those two things: how I can do it better customer service, and how I can do it for less, charging the independent pharmacies less than what the corporate big box company was actually charging. But let's fast forward for a few years, and now I have entered into corporate America as the Medicare Pharmacy Director for a local Blues health plan. I absolutely love this position, and I became the subject matter expert on all things Medicare Part D. I didn't just go in and only focus on my little pharmacy team. What I wanted to know was, how do people get enrolled? What does membership do? When people get enrolled, what materials and member materials do they get sent? Who designs those member materials? When people have questions, where do they call in? What's the training for the customer service department looks like? What are they doing on the medical side? How do they get their medical benefits? How do we actually come up with the product design? That's the bid and actuary team. I learned all the facets of who has something to do with building this Medicare product, sending it out to market, all the way down to the actual beneficiary level. Because I knew so much about it, because I had broken down so many silos, here's another Nectar Nugget for you. When you go in and you become a subject matter expert on something and you know all the ins and outs and how it affects other departments, that is going to make you a more well-rounded and better problem solver. Therefore, whenever a solution, whether it's a solution that I'm implementing because I came up with it, or it's a solution that I'm implementing from a vendor, I am going to be able to execute better with less fallout, because I know what decision made here is going to affect membership, that's going to affect customer service. I can see it because I know what all those departments do enough as to how it relates to what I'm doing. So therefore, when you're able to understand holistically, not just your product, not just your service, but what it does in the entire ecosystem, you're able to implement solutions with less fallout and better efficiency, because you already know the obstacles and hurdles that may come up. Another example of that is how we brought our independent pharmacy. We bought that pharmacy because it gives us another piece of the puzzle, which is drug acquisition costs. So that's going to help us on our consulting side when we're doing contracting, because now we have a relative idea of how much it costs the pharmacy to actually acquire the drug. If you're managing something in a supply chain, one of the things you need to know is where the actual product started and how much does it cost for the person that's actually having to dispense it out. So just think of all these things as adding more and more to the puzzle, which is adding more and more to my skill set and my well-roundedness, so that I can actually be a better consultant, I can be a better insurance agent, I can be a better entrepreneur, a better problem solver. So that's your Nectar Nugget on how to make sure that you break down these silos and you become a subject matter expert in whatever it is that you're selling. Then when I left there, I started PCIN, which is the managed care consulting organization. We help Medicare plan sponsors improve their quality ratings or their star ratings, and in turn the government gives them millions of dollars that they can offset their premiums and offer additional benefits to the Medicare beneficiaries. I knew all of that and learned all of that from my actual position when I was a Medicare director at a Blues plan. Okay. Also, what I learned was all the knowledge I had, the one person who could benefit the most was the actual Medicare beneficiary. So therefore, I became a licensed life, accident, and health insurance agent, and I started to sell Medicare insurance, and I've been doing it for about 3 years. What's so great about that is I'm able to help an individual beneficiary figure out something that is very complicated, get them onto the right plan, and it costs them absolutely nothing because the insurance plan is going to pay me as an agent. So I can't think of any better service where I can actually help somebody non-biased and then be able to get paid for it, and it doesn't come out of their pocket, who's actually getting the most out of it. Okay, so that is one reason, or two reasons, why I started the Medicare insurance agent. One is to serve, and two, it's a great avenue for passive income. So that is a very quick synopsis of my history, my credibility, how I am able to come and sit before you on this YouTube channel and tell you that without a shadow of a doubt, I know how to start, grow, and scale a business, and I know how to help you do it. And I have proven strategies and sales and marketing framework from an expert in the industry coupled with my actual experiences. And now my job is to put all of that into a YouTube channel. Now, this YouTube channel is going to be a little different than what you may have seen from others. It is going to be in order, in steps of what you actually need to do. Right now, there's a lot of free and valuable information on the internet. You can go and you may go to one content creator and get, this is how you start a business. You can go over here and you can figure out how do you start hiring employees. You can go over here and try and figure out all your business licenses. But it's like a smorgasbord. It's not necessarily in order. And when it is in order, that's when they usually charge you to go into a course or some kind of strategy so that they can actually get everything in order. I'm not doing that here because, one, I am not doing this YouTube channel for my livelihood. I'm doing it as a part of my legacy, so the next Renarda out there will actually have a blueprint for starting and running their business. I'm also doing it because I want to build my business coaching business, but I want to build it slow enough so it's sustainable enough so that when I do decide to do it full time, I have everything in place so that it can run smoothly and I can help people on a one-on-one basis better. Now, if you're saying, Renarda, this sounds really good, I am ready to go, I don't have time to wait for 1 or 2 videos a week, do you have any packages where you can work one-on-one with me? Absolutely, I do. I have group coaching programs and I have one-on-one programs where we can work individually on your business. So I have something for everybody, but the main thing I wanted to get through on this channel and in this video is to let you know that if you're looking for all things entrepreneurship, you do not need to look any further. You can subscribe and join this channel right here and you'll have everything that you need. I look forward to the journey. I am so super excited to be here, and even more, I am so super excited that you're here.